You know who made it.
Live from LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, it's Revening's Whiskey Wednesday. Welcome to Whiskey Wednesday, revenue party people. As always, we've got lots of hot prizes, hot topics, and hot guests to get into tonight. And I personally cannot wait to cover these topics. These are the topics I wish I would have been able to hear, let's say, 9 years ago before my daughter was born. So let's dive right into it. I'm just going to go ahead and show you what we have going on tonight. You're going to want to enter hashtag AI for prize 1, hashtag headset for prize 2, and tag Proposify for prize 3. The topics tonight, I think you just all saw them on the video. We'll be showing them on the screen as we get through it. In between that, we'll have a quick intermission with a few words from our sponsors. And then prizes, Guru of the Week, and the after party after the show on Google Hangout. So if you're interested and you want to leave a host a tip, feel free to scan the QR code. I always love seeing, even just $1 coming in from my audience. It's amazing to know that you're not only watching, but you're appreciating what you're able to see and learn here. And if you do enter hashtag AI, this is what you're entering to win: 1 year pro on Lavender. So you're going to want to start using AI if you're not. Let me know in the comments, are you using AI on your content? And in particular, are you using Lavender or are you using something else? I would love to know. I am a big fan of utilizing tools. And then Data Ghost, here's 1,000 free B2B emails. So you'll want to tag AI to enter to win these ones. This should say prize 2, but it says prize 3 and then prize 3. But prize 2 is actually hashtag headset, and you're entering to win 30 minutes free cold call coaching with Tom Slocum. Tag Tom, let him know, hey, what's up, Tom? Thank you for the 30-minute cold call coaching opportunity. And then we have Headset Advisor. So you're going to win a headset if you tag hashtag headset, and then, comment hashtag headset, and you enter to win. There'll be one lucky winner who will get both of these. And then finally, there's a Proposify swag pack, because who doesn't want a t-shirt, mug, tumbler, and toque? I had to look up what a toque was. And so I invite you to do the same. Next week, you'll want to meet us here. We've got Caroline Maloney and Aaron Hassan. Go ahead and find them. Tag them in the comments. Let them know you're looking forward to next week's episode. But Reveting.com is up, everybody. It is officially live. And if you could just go to Reveting.com and subscribe to the newsletter, you'll see there that we're on all major podcast apps now. So you can go find us on whatever podcast app that you would like. The links are right on the website. And I'm very excited. So I'm going to just go ahead and bring in our awesome guest. Hopefully you read the description of this event, but she is a powerhouse and a mother. And she has built I think it was $700 million business, Chili Piper. And she is the co-founder and the co-CEO of Chili Piper. And I'm lucky to have her here on Whiskey Wednesday to cover these hot pregnancy and the workplace topics with me. Welcome to the show, Alina.
Good to see you, Jessie.
Good to see you too. Thank you so much for being here.
I appreciate you keeping the Wednesdays alive at 9 p.m. Eastern with such a high enthusiasm and a beautiful background and makeup and everything. I'm impressed.
Oh, thank you so much. And thank you on Sunday night for, listening to the comments on your post. It was a really beautiful post that you made. It was a picture of yourself pregnant, and you were talking about the power of pregnancy and the businesses that you built while you were pregnant. And I was so blown away by that. And then it was great to get support from other women in the comments to get you here on Whiskey Wednesday. So thank you so much for listening.
I look forward to having this discussion, and I can't wait to have the discussion with the audience as well. I see that there are already comments coming through.
Absolutely. Yes, audience, please, as we're talking, we want to incorporate you as much as possible. So ask questions. Don't be shy. Alina's already said she's willing to talk about anything. So, we're not going to shy away from any of the hot topics. So let's get right into it. And first, let's just, I told her beforehand, I normally do a 2-minute timer, but I don't want you to feel cut off. We want to learn about you. Tell us about your history, growing up in Romania, what led you here, and then also about the 2 businesses that you were talking about in your post, as well as especially Chili Piper and what's going on there now.
I started as a engineer. So coming out of school, computers have always been my interest. I found computers a lot easier to understand than humans. And when I came to US, I started my career in that area. I started as a product manager. And my first job in US was at a company called Thomson Reuters, which is a media company. I was lucky enough in the first few months that I was given a project that was highly on the radar of Apple, and it was one of the first mobile apps that was ever been built for Apple. And the product that I built at that time was keynoted by Steve Jobs. It was in the middle of Times Square, also everywhere. And I couldn't believe that I got the opportunity to start with a big splash. Slowly, I started climbing the corporate ladder. I worked for other companies as well. I worked for Bloomberg, for Pearson, so finance and education and healthcare. I've always been one that would ruffle the feathers around me because I have very little patience and a lot of ambition to do a lot more than what I'm being given. And for me, just product management as such was limiting. So as of 2016, I decided to start my own company. I've been close to revenue teams for as soon as I started in school, because I had many jobs in parallel to my education to be able to pay for it. And sales was one of them. And at every company that I've worked for, I've spent a lot of time with the sales team, with the marketing teams to understand how they operate. So for me, Chili Piper, which is at the intersection of marketing and sales, felt very natural. We now have 50,000 or more marketers marketing teams on our platform. The product that we're known for is when someone comes to our website and they want to talk to your sales team, usually there's a form there, and usually the sales team goes and chases those leads. And what our product does is it's a JavaScript in that form, connects directly with the sales team, and immediately doubles conversion rates. Lavender, actually, that you have an award today, is a customer of ours. But we also have bigger, larger enterprises as well. We have Verizon, we have Home Depot, Shopify, Airbnb. There's a broad range of customers that we have, and I stay close to sales and marketing leaders day in and day out, and I enjoy having conversations with them in the industry. So if the audience today has questions about that as well, I can answer, in addition to being a mother of two.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. And if you don't mind, can you tell us a little bit about when you became a mother? I know for me, it was 2014. I had my daughter. I was actually working for a district attorney at the time on a human trafficking campaign. So we were, it was really intense and really sad, unfortunately. I hate to say there's little girls right here in the US who are bought and sold for sex. And that's just the reality. So, I did data and stats and helped, raise awareness through different campaigns of human trafficking when I had my daughter. And then, I had my daughter and I couldn't really focus on that type of work anymore. It was really starting to get to me. And so in 2015 is when I started in B2B SaaS as a marketer. Took a lot of the skills that I'd had beforehand leading up to it in different political and government type roles with websites and social media and email. But then, applying it in the marketing realm for startups. And so, that was when I had my baby in 2014, and then I had another one in 2018. And people in the comments of a lot of my posts this week are like, "Are you pregnant?" I got a text, "Are you pregnant?" Because we were posting those pictures, and I am not pregnant. I'm not breastfeeding right now. It's been a while. And so I feel great to have this opportunity to talk about those experiences. But how about you, Alina? Where were you when you had your first?
So I have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. So both times I was pregnant while I was building Chili Piper. And I'm not breastfeeding either. That's why I have some bubbly wine. Since you said Whiskey Wednesday, I have bubbly wine Wednesdays.
I brought it too, since you said you're drinking bubbly wine.
That's that's the only alcohol that I drink. The timing is never right. I don't think that one is ever prepared to be pregnant. But that's how it happened, that I felt mature enough to have children when I was building the company at the same time.
Definitely. Yeah. So I guess, let's get right into our first topic. And our first topic is pregnancy superpowers. So we're going to be changing the narrative around pregnancy here today on Whiskey Wednesday. How expecting mothers can excel in the workplace. Can you kick us off on this, Alina?
It's an interesting superpower, and I've only understood it as I was speaking to mothers at Chili Piper and mothers at other companies, that once you have children, you get a lot better at understanding the bigger picture, because all of a sudden things that appeared big before, they pale in comparison to just life in general. And the process of giving birth also starts giving you a lot more perspective over importance. So I think that one of the superpowers that comes from giving birth is perspective. The second thing that came to me also as through this process, that also made me stronger, was the realization that once you learn how to manage your own insecurities as you're helping the little humans become humans themselves, you also become a better connoisseur of the human mind, and as a result, a better workplace colleague and a better manager. The understanding of the human mind played a huge role for me. And I think that the third thing that also came as a result of giving birth was the ability to be a lot more creative on how I do things, because you have very little time, you have very little time even for yourself. So you start becoming a lot more creative in getting things done. And that creativity is hitting you a lot more frequently once you become a mother.
I think so too. Yeah. And, it's just like, you're so right in terms of your time is just so limited. I love how you said that it makes you more creative, because you're right, it does. And that is the superpower. Because, and even Sunday, I think it was, when we were emailing Sunday night, the next day I had the event posted, and you were like, that was fast. And I should have responded, well, the mother superpowers, because if I'm not going to just do it right then and there, then it's not going to get done. And so, that's how I have to operate in my jobs and in my business. Is I have to create a very organized to-do list, which I like to use Asana. And, I have to not procrastinate, and I have to stay on top of it. And I love what you said about the mind too, because I'll be honest, I've had to do my fair share of therapy. I've had a coach. I think that there's always work to be done in terms of the mind. We can never be better. And we're learning about children and children's development these days too. So we really do need to heal from the way we were raised, so that we can, accept this new research and knowledge of how to raise our children in these, new days with all this new information. But yeah, it is a superpower, pregnancy and beyond. Mothers, we really do excel. Anything else you would add on that topic of how expecting mothers can excel in the workplace? Because, I feel like it's before you have the baby, right? It's when you're pregnant. Somehow we get this negative mindset. Maybe it's only in the US. My sister-in-law, I know if she's watching, she's from Poland. And so she'll, talk about some of the leave policies there and how they're different from here. And so I don't know if the mindset is necessarily the same in Europe, but in here you do start to get nervous. And I even know stories of women I knew who were told, they need to, like, they would be replaced once they would go and have their child, and, they wouldn't really need them here, or it would just be assumed that they wouldn't come back. And then it's the disability thing, like you mentioned, and that makes it sound negative. But it's not negative, it's positive, and it makes us more efficient.
I'm resonating a lot with what you're saying, that indeed I'm observing that the mindset is very different in US over Europe. And in US, there's a lot more anxiety associated with it. And I never expected that, but it's real. I feel it, it's palpable, even for our own employees. And the fear comes from, I think, from a very different historical family structure that is common in US versus Europe. Especially, for instance, in Romania, women and men can't afford to leave the woman at home to take care of their children. That's not part of the equation because of economic reasons. The woman has to work. And as a result, it creates a lot more equal distribution of tasks and of work. And in US, it's more common that the woman stays at home, and especially in history. So as a result, there's a preconceived idea that comes with it, that once the woman is having a child, that they're just going to take that role, especially for managers that observe that the woman is pregnant. They'll think, oh, she's going to take a break, or she will not come back. And that worries someone who might want to continue in the workforce, because they're afraid that they're going to be put in a box and be replaced. There's nothing wrong with staying at home, and there's nothing wrong with wanting a career. It's a choice, and everybody has a luxury. In US, women have the luxury of choosing. The I think that the anxiety in the workforce comes from this previous history that US has.
Yeah, I think you're right. And, I think that it's women like you who are helping to set the new narrative. So, thank you to you. And if anyone here is watching, tag some powerful mothers that you know who are working and helping to pave the way to create a new narrative for mothers in the workplace. Go ahead and tag them and let's celebrate them in the comments. And in the meantime, speaking of celebrating, let's celebrate motherhood and recognizing the invaluable contributions of birth givers in business. So when you think of celebrating motherhood, Alina, what do you think of?
For sure, once you give birth, there's an extra strength that comes from it. You realize that your body is capable of this amazing feat to giving life, and it's really, really hard to describe it to those that haven't given birth yet. And it's really, really hard to describe it to those that don't have that the body equipped to do that. But it's miraculous. It's like, it's unbelievable that this human being come out of you and you created it. Obviously, you haven't created it consciously, like your body works on it. It gives you the kind of mental strength to do things after you give birth that you no longer feel that things are impossible anymore. Once you see that, you don't feel that things are impossible anymore. I think you're on mute, Jessie.
Oh man, it wouldn't be a complete Whiskey Wednesday if I wasn't on mute. But you're right. And, speaking of celebrating mothers, and I feel like for me, if I could get through pregnancy, I could do anything. But then once I got there, I realized there was the 4th trimester, which for me was even harder, breastfeeding and figuring all how to take care of a baby that doesn't want to sleep and, just motherhood in general and parenting. That was hard in itself. And it was like, if I can get past that and work, because, we only get 3 months here in the US. So if I could do all of that, then I could do anything. And after doing it all and then still working, I'm like, man, I can do more. Let me just go start my own business. And so I think you're right, because once I was done breastfeeding, that's when I really started to pick up my climb up the corporate ladder, because I felt like I had a little extra time and I didn't want to. And if I was going to work and I was going to be away from my kids, I wanted to be, doing the best to my ability, being the best version of myself so that I could provide for them. But
did you feel an extra push to wanting to not let them down, to be a good example, and obviously to be providing for what they need? And that's such an important part of parenthood. I would want to point out something that I also did not expect, and I don't know if it's a general thing. I'm observing that at least with the women that I've been speaking with, that they're a lot more tough on themselves than men in general, in that they are more likely to think that they're not worthy, that they're an imposter, that they're not good enough, that they're not good enough for their role, that they're not doing well enough. And I observed that, especially during pregnancy, because your mind is less cooperative than normal times. At least for me, it was that voice, that inner voice that does a lot of criticism, like accentuates and exacerbates. And even in the 4th trimester, as you said, you're losing yourself. Like your body is not recovering as fast as you want, and your body is not feeding the baby or not doing what's supposed to do. And you're with this creature and you don't really know what to do with it. Yeah. It cries and you don't know why. You've had it.
Like, where's the instruction manual? I didn't get one of those.
You're learning a completely different thing to do. And literally you're becoming a completely different person because, and I've read this maybe 2 years ago, that the mother and the child exchange neurons and exchange tissues in between their organs. So you're growing a new heart because you're exchanging with the placenta. The baby gets some of your heart and you're getting some of the baby's heart. So even if you're carrying a baby as a surrogate, you're going to get that baby's tissue in your organs. You're going to be a different person after you give birth. So the process of reinventing your body, your tissues, and your organs is very it consumes a lot of energy. So it's only normal that your brain is not going to function the way you want it in that moment. Your bodies might feel tired, and in my case, I felt hungry all the time. During those times, you're going to be very tough on yourself. If you're prone to tough on yourself before, during this time, you're going to be probably one of your worst critics. And I'm observing that after I gave birth, I'm a lot less critical to myself for some reason. I still found myself, even today, there was a call with our head of sales, and I called myself an idiot. And I don't know why those things still come up. I don't know why there's this self-criticism that comes towards myself, that I'm observing that in general women tend to do more than men. But during the pregnancy and during the fourth trimester, it's exacerbated and it's tough.
Yeah, definitely. No, I hear you there. And you started getting into a little bit of imposter syndrome. So I brought up that topic. But before I guess we get in more to that, we've gotten a couple, good comments and questions. I don't know if we've gotten any questions yet, but mostly comments. But here's what Maddie Bell says. A senior leader at our company took the time to work with HR and put a policy in place to allow mothers to expense overnighting milk back home when they traveled. And guess who approved the request? A C-suite woman. Changes possible with the right women ascending to leadership. Oh, I love that story. So basically, I went through that myself. I had to go to a trade show and I was pumping at the time. And they have those little trailer carts, I forget what they're called, but they have a name. And I mean, I guess I'm grateful for it, but everybody knows what you're doing when you walk in there, and you're at a tech conference and there's a bunch of men in suits and then there's a trailer and then you walk out with your bag full of milk. I mean, it can be awkward, but I guess we're getting better. What I would say to anyone who's in those situations with a mother is offer to help. Ask her if she has a refrigerator, because typically they want to refrigerate their milk. Because a lot of the time, I think people want to help and they don't know how to help. And I think Maddie raised a good idea is you can expense overnight the milk back to the baby, because sometimes your production isn't high enough to have enough milk to be away from the baby during your work travel. But yeah, anything you would add in terms of traveling away from babies for work in the early days, Alina?
I'm lucky because I can work remote, and that makes such a huge difference when you have babies, because you feel a lot less guilty that you're away. You're basically in the same room with them if you choose to do that. It's not possible for everybody, and obviously not at all times, especially if you have customer calls or if there's a podcast and there's a lot of crying, that doesn't really work well. But working remotely makes a huge difference in motherhood, and as in tech, we're lucky that we have that luxury. I've also tried to pump and travel, and it was a complete mess. I hated it. It was painful. I hated the noise. I hated all the little parts that I had to wash. I never knew if I washed them correctly, if there were germs there. I never knew if I was doing it right. I was crying and I gave up. So I gave up on the pumping part. Eventually I fed my babies with formula. The formula part was also bothering to me because I felt so angry at the ingredient list in the formula, and eventually just imported it from Europe. That was a nightmare as well. I think that there are a lot of these little things that we do behind the scenes that only that are harder to explain to those that have not given birth yet, or don't have babies. But in those moments, they felt really important to nail down. And now looking back, I know that I've done the best that I could at that time, and with the information that I've had, I think as mothers, we probably require a lot more compassion towards ourselves.
Yeah, definitely. And, at the end of the day, we're powerful, and we really just need to step into our power. And so, overcoming imposter syndrome, what would you say, Alina, to empower those women watching, those women who think they maybe don't belong, or they're questioning whether they should be there, or, they're thinking maybe I'll just, maybe there's a way I don't have to work anymore. And it's really sad actually right now, the rates of the number of women in the workplace are really low just due to the pandemic and COVID. And I know it's going up again, but what would you say to those women who are, maybe thinking about leaving the workforce, or maybe thinking they're not supposed to be there, they're not, they don't have the same experience. Maybe they went on maternity leave for whatever reason, they have imposter syndrome. What would you say to empower them?
It goes back to that initial conversation of us women being a little bit too tough on ourselves. And I'm not quite sure how that has originated and how that has formed. But I'm observing that women are more likely to have the imposter syndrome. Obviously, it's not general. It happens very much so in the male population, and not all women feel that imposter syndrome. I'm just observing based on my discussions that it's more frequent in women, and it tends to exacerbate during a pregnancy. The reality is that it's harder to see the good things that we're doing if we're constantly analyzing the bad things. It's harder to form the muscle of appreciation, and it's harder to form the muscle of things, the results that we leave behind. And if you know a mother right now who's pregnant, or someone who has just had children, the one thing that you could help them is just point out the little things that they might do, the care that they may have for others, or something that they might have done in the past 24 hours that has impressed you. Because the more they form that muscle, the more they realize that they're capable. It's just a longer journey, and it's a lot harder when they're pregnant.
I love that. Yes, acknowledge them. Thank you for adding that. And we're going to get into the fourth topic of fearless motherhood right after these messages.
Hey there, I'm Brittany. I'm a website designer and optimization strategist. And if you're building a website now or planning on building one in the future, I have something just for you. Visit brittanyhoncomp.com/planner to snag your free copy of my website project planner. It's a document for you to keep track of important details and accounts associated with your website. It's also got room to describe your business, your ideal client, and how you help them. You can make note of different designs and styles you like, as well as details about your brand. And there's a place to outline your sales funnel, customer journey, and services you provide. Once you've filled this out and are ready to get started on your website project, you can send it back to me or any website designer you'd like to get a massive jumpstart on your website project. So just go to brittanyhoncomp.com/planner to get your free copy.
Hi, I'm Valerie Christine, and I'm so happy to be here on Whiskey WinsDay. I help women break free from stored trauma so they can be successful. If you've ever known how to do something, you had all the strategies, but you still weren't successful at it, it might be because of stored trauma. This can come up in the form of procrastination, self-doubt, people-pleasing, not having clear boundaries with yourself and with others. And often people look for the answer outside of themselves, but it's usually within. So if you're finding yourself struggling to succeed and you know what to do, you have a list of what to do, but you're just not able to get yourself to do it, reach out to me on Instagram at Heal with Valerie, and that's Heal with Valerie. I would love to talk with you and see in what ways we can support you to get to where you really want to be.
All right. Well, thank you to Brittany and Valerie. If you could go ahead and tag them in the comments if you're connected with them, let's celebrate them and hop into Fearless Motherhood, empowering women to overcome new parenting fears with confidence. So what do you think we can do, Alina, to empower these women to overcome all these fears and really just step into their power? Because we know that motherhood gave us power, and it wasn't easy. It was really freaking hard, which is probably what forced us to step into that power. But what would you tell them, as a way to just empower them to get there?
I had the good fortune of building Chili Piper to a place where finances have no longer been an issue. And I say that from coming from a really poor background. I don't even remember, like 4 different jobs in parallel to school to be able to just pay for simple things like shoes and makeup. I guess makeup is not a simple thing, but for me as a teenager, it felt like an important part at that time. And I never expected that my biggest richness in my life came from my children, and the biggest richness from my life came from this ability to understand how important life is by just giving birth. And to those that have had children, this is a lot easier to understand. Children are such a beautiful augmentation of our lives, and such it adds such an extra richness to everything that we do. I wouldn't change that for the world. And to these days, I feel that they're my biggest creation, my most beautiful creation, not my business. Obviously, I dedicate a lot of time to both. And but I still feel a lot more prouder for the giving of birth and creation of life, because it has given me the ability to be a lot more focused on how I spend my time in business, to be able to have truly an impact. And that's how the start of our foundation came about, to fight for no violence. That's how we started working a lot in helping victims and mothers in Ukraine. That's how we look at all the work that we do to create a beautiful ecosystem behind us. I don't think I would have been able to do all of that and have the strength and the motivation without have become a mother.
Yeah, definitely. I guess one thing that we were that I picked up from your post, and I think we were kind of going back and forth about it in email a little bit, was, about in the US, how we call pregnancy a disability. And I thought it was really interesting how you said it's different in Europe. And that is sort of a pre-frame for us to sort of get into this negative mindset. Can you explain that to us? Like, what's your opinion, I guess? Like, how do we get away from that here in the US?
The way I've experienced it is probably different than how you have experienced it. When I was in the subway and I was very pregnant, people would give me their seat, and people were generally very nice and accommodating to me. So I didn't feel anything bad as a result, but I did feel like I was treated a little bit with white gloves in case I might break, and with a little bit of distance and fear. I'm not quite sure why that came about, but I felt I was treated with a lot of fear, mostly. Whereas in Europe, when I was observing the way pregnant women were treated, was a lot more with celebration, in that this is amazing, you're giving birth to this person, let me give you a lot of sweets, because that's what it was, the tradition in the country where I grew up in. People were a lot more cheering, were taking a cheerleader role in pregnancy, and fear was not associated with pregnancy. Whereas here, I'm observing that people are a lot more careful to how they accommodate pregnant people. I'm not quite sure why that's the case. I don't know where that came about.
Yeah, I don't know either, but I know that we're changing the narrative here today on Whiskey Wednesday. So, I hope that everybody who's watching, allies, mothers, future mothers, daughters, sons, that we're starting to see that, we just have this weird mindset here in the US, and everybody just needs to ditch it. We are powerful. We can still work. We can still take care of our children. We can still be really great mothers and fathers. And, I don't know. I wish everybody would just change their mindset, but it's culture and society. So it's difficult. Question on this from Maddie Bell. I was able to have 3 kids and still lead billion-dollar ARR businesses because I was lucky enough to work for a large company that had the ability and the means to fully support women. In the startup world, where many early-stage companies are worried about resources and burn, how are you seeing young companies and early CEOs properly supporting maternity leaves? What help do they need? Ooh, that's a hard question.
Yeah, it's a good question. I'm a lot less closer to the early stage startups because of the nature of my work now. I am observing that most of them are led by men, and most of them have men employees. I am observing that the early stage startups tend to be skewed gender-wise. I don't know if it's because of that fear or if there's something different. It tends to be the case because I am mostly in tech, and tech in general tends to be skewed towards male. Even for us at Chili Pepper, it's hard to find talent for our engineering team for women. But there's definitely, I see that there's definitely a concern because the government doesn't provide the resources here in US to cover for that maternity leave, to cover for that time when their resources off, to be able to continue to excel. And it's really a difficult topic because on-site entrepreneurs have a really hard time to have their company succeed. I mean, most companies fail. It is the reality. It's a numbers game, and very few manage to survive. And the founders are constantly in that survival game. So every little thing that might take them away from survival, they might see it as a fear factor. I would think that if the government would have a different policy in place where they can cover the salaries for people that are taking maternity care, it would change the game in the US also.
Yeah, I can't help but agree. I mean, I know that a lot of people have different opinions about that, but I do feel strongly that if we say we have family values, then we'll actually have family values, and we'll support women across the spectrum in terms of having that time in the beginning to really be with their kids. And for startups, yeah, I thought it was a great question. And she's saying how are you seeing young companies and early CEOs properly supporting maternity leave? I've seen that they properly support it. I have not seen that. I have not personally seen any that have not properly supported it. The problem is it's just so short. So they're only required, to allow 12 weeks of unpaid leave. I know in California, there was another fund that you could pay into because I had my first in California. So some of it was paid by the state. The state had that disability fund. And I believe it was 4 months that I got off in California. But even still, like 4 months is considered progressive. I love hearing from larger companies that are able to do it, that are, making the choice for culture and diversity and inclusion to allow parents, not just mothers, but fathers too, to have that time to bond with their kids. But yeah, I don't know. Anything else you would add on this topic, Alina?
I just feel so angry, Jessie. I feel so angry that the government has these strange policies with parenthood. The leave is too short. The leave is too short that the companies have to give. And in addition, childcare is such a strange topic here in the US. You have to pay, and it's very, 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 very expensive. It's very expensive.
So expensive. Yes.
And you look at these European countries, and it's all subsidized. It's all free. It's all free, right? So of course you're more likely to go back to work because you don't have to worry about that extra cost. You don't have to think, oh, is my salary even higher than what I'm paying for childcare? And that makes me so angry. That makes me so angry. And such a progressive country like America, where the economy is thriving, and yet the policies are not there for parents. I would assume it's because the political spectrum is skewed towards a gender also, and I would assume is also skewed towards a certain age. And because it's skewed to a certain age, they have a certain framework in mind in which they're analyzing policies based on their experiences and based on their lived family values as well. And as a result, it's less of a priority for them to change this. I hope that there are more progressive politicians that are coming that are going to make more noise and be aware that these are things that women care about. But it's a difficult topic, and it's a very delicate topic, especially these days where even reproduction is one of those topics that is hard to cover because abortion pills are a topic that the government decides on, and there are just like so many sensitivities around it. I don't know precisely in which direction we'll go.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm just going to say it. I think here in the US and, even around the world, it's not all men, of course, but there is a toxic masculine sort of culture everywhere, not just in sales and marketing. It's pervasive in politics. I used to work in politics and government, these leaders who are making these decisions. I mean, I start to get angry too, Alina, because I think about, wow, I feel so privileged. And, I think I was just like, even just a sales and marketing manager at the time, when I had my second. But just think about like the entry-level salespeople, you get 3 months of unpaid leave. Well, you might not be able to take 3 months of unpaid leave. when you go have a C-section, you know, and don't even get me started on like the racial, you know, just it's not equal in terms of race, in terms of maternity mortality rates here in the US. So let's just be real. There are more Black women who are not surviving birth than there are white women. And it's unfortunate. And it goes on along the lines. And so, you know, you put these people who are in these, you know, these demographics, and then you say you get 3 months off. Well, really, you don't, because you have to work. And so, like, how are we going to fix these, you know, maternal mortality rates? I don't know. So I get really angry too, Alina. So folks in the comments, I'd love to hear from you. Like, what do you think we do about this? You know, I guess, you know, as powerful women, some of the things that we can do is just continue to try to change the narrative like you and I are doing. Probably, you know, donate to try to get some different politicians elected, use our voice and our platform to speak on these issues. But, you know, business can only do so much.
It's actually interesting. I'm observing more businesses taking a stance, even in the political spectrum, because they're donors and they're going to donate to all these candidates. Right now, the candidates, unfortunately, are still skewed towards a certain age. So these topics might not resonate with them. And the companies that are lobbying might not resonate with those topics either because of the candidates. But the reality is that the policies affect a certain demographics of women a lot more than others. Us in tech, we're a little bit lucky, but it's I'm looking in the poor regions and the poor neighborhoods. The women there cannot afford to take this time off. They have such a big hardship when they're pregnant, and they have to give up so much of their survival and food and things that are just basic to be able to give birth. And it's super painful to watch. And there's an additional step that happens once you become a parent, is that you can't even go to school. You can't even go to school for your parents' meetings during work time. And you can't go to the events to really support your children, and that's infuriating. So the demographic that gets affected for sure is making the rifts, the haves and haves not, the gaps a lot greater, because action is not taken.
Definitely. And Cindy Cohn is pointing out that, you know, we've come far, but just have a lot further to go. And you're so right, Cindy, because we absolutely have come far. Wow. I think about just birth in general, and like how, you know, how giving birth, you know, in the 1950s is different to now. And, you know, even before that. So yeah, I think we should celebrate our wins, but, you know, we're powerful, we're women, and we have a lot to offer this world, and the world needs us, because toxic masculinity isn't going anywhere until we step into our feminine power. And so it's time for society to, I don't know, take note of all these things and listen to women like us, and hopefully more women here who are watching, who I know have their own platforms. Cindy, I know you have a platform. Elizabeth, let's hear from you. I think we have to continue to support each other, lift each other. And one thing I will say too, Alina, is how can we encourage the women watching to support each other? Because a lot of the time, you know, we'll see especially women wanting to pull each other down or not support each other, but we need each other if we're going to really, you know, step into this power. And I don't know, like we can't keep working against each other. Do you know what I mean?
I'm observing that, and also assimilating the fact that there's this ingrained, and I'm probably labeling it wrong, the toxic positivity that happens in most groups, where whenever you see something that might look a little bit sad, or there might be anger there, you might just want to sweep it under a rug and not talk about it and say, no, this is great, we're doing wonderful, everything is amazing. The more we do that, the more we try to sweep things under a rug, the more things accumulate. And the reality is that the more lonely and misunderstood we're going to feel. I'm actually encouraging people to start talking about topics that might appear difficult at the first sight, because they might have a lot deeper and interesting conversations if they dig into them without trying to make them disappear, because they're never going to go disappear. They're still going to be there, these difficult issues. And the more we try to just silence them, the bigger the pain. So the number one thing that I think we can do is just bring to the surface the difficult topics. Obviously, you're not going to bring it to your manager because your manager might not understand you. But if you speak to a fellow mother and you speak to people that are part of your tribe and just dig deeper into the subjects that are typically not discussed, then you will have a lot deeper understanding of how you can really do things that can help.
Definitely. Yeah, I think that's a really important topic in terms of like just making sure we're connecting, you know.
Connecting. Mm-hmm.
We as women, like if we're going to, you know, really step into this power and get this toxic masculinity to dissolve and go away, we can't do it if we're all, you know, divided. So, you know, and maybe that's another thing, like in Europe, I feel like people are not as individualized. Like there's more like
Community.
more community, more dinners, and more like getting together at local places, and especially in business and especially in sales, and even marketing, there's a lot of isolation.
It's for economical reasons. In US, people can be self-sufficient without the power of the tribe. In a lot of communities in Europe, it's a lot harder because the economy is not in the same place. Obviously, things are changing, and the economy in US right now is not helping, and a lot of people are experiencing hardship. But in many places, the community helps people thrive. In Japan is one example where community is such a big aspect of the entire ecosystem, without the economy playing a huge role in that part. Is just part of their DNA. But the part in which people are connecting with one another is definitely the part where people feel a lot more understood, a lot less lonely, and a lot more likely to be able to take bigger bets and do the changes that they want to see in the world.
Absolutely. And I love too what you said about don't shy away from the hard topics. So as we're connecting with each other and we're finding our platforms, you know, and even in sales, right? On our sales calls, we should be really asking those hard questions and letting people sit in their pain, right? And it's the same thing with this. It's just human psychology.
Best sales calls are the ones where you get to unknown territory and uncharted emotions. Yes.
Definitely. Well, we've got some prizes to get away. So if you have not entered to win on some of these prizes, please make sure that you're clicking or typing #AI, #headset, and tagging Proposify to enter to win. We're going to start giving those away. Let me make sure we got to all of these topics. So the last one was breaking barriers, strategies for becoming a revenue generating powerhouse during pregnancy and beyond. So how can we set ourselves up for success, Alina? Any ideas in terms of like when you're pregnant or you're getting ready to, you know, go out on maternity leave? How can you make sure that you're going to come back and you're going to be that powerhouse, you know, Batty B that we know you're going to like just be a queen when you step into that power when you come back from your maternity leave? What can you do to prepare for that?
A big part is obviously the strategy that you set up with your manager. And as you know, people don't leave companies, they leave managers in general. So having a manager that fully supports and understands you, and have a plan with them to make sure that your role is covered during the time that you're off. The reality is that they're going to be a lot more impressed by the human that you're returning. It takes a while, right? It's not immediate, but the human that's returning is a lot more motivated. It's a lot more ready to take on bigger challenges, and a lot more likely to take bigger risks. But most importantly, the human that returns back is one that will understand human psychology a lot better than before. So as a result, they're going to be you're going to be a lot better salesperson, a lot better marketer, a lot better manager, colleague, because you're going to have an extra affinity to be a better human.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. And if anyone in the comments, what would you all share in the comments? Share some tips with the audience. What do you think we need to do as women to step into our power? Do we have any men left in the comments? Would love to hear from you. And what can we do as women to support you? Because it's not all men. And, we need to be able to find our allies out there. So if you are still here, let us know and be one of those connectors with us. But I'm going to go ahead and let's give away some prizes. What do you think, Alina?
Let's do it.
All right, I'm going to do it. I'm going to share my screen and let's get ready for this. All right, so the first prize was #AI. You've got about 2 seconds to put in #AI. And this is going to be, if you can see my screen, it looks like you can. 5 entries. Theodora, Elizabeth, I saw you in there. Who's going to win? Sarah, is it going to be Sarah Hanks? Congratulations, Sarah Hanks. Sarah Hanks, you won Lavender Pro and Data Go. So let me make sure that we get you the form to collect your information to get you prize 1. And let's go ahead and do prize 2. Make sure that you're typing in #headset in the comments to win. And this is going to be the headset and the 30-minute cold call coaching with Tom Slocum. There's Cindy, Sarah, and Erica. Oh my gosh. Sarah, you won again. Congratulations. Nice. Sarah Hanks night. Woo woo. Way to go, Sarah. I don't know how people win twice in a row, but man, that would be wild if you run this third one, Sarah. Let's see. Proposify. Are you going to win the Proposify pack? There's only 3 entries, so let's see if we can Eudora. Sarah didn't enter on this one. Elizabeth, congratulations. I will send you all a form so I can collect your email and connect you with the brand so they can get you these prizes. And you should hear from us within the next 24 hours. So stay tuned on that. And Alina, one thing we do every week is the Guru of the Week. Ooh. And that's when we ask our guests to suggest someone on LinkedIn who is one of your favorite content creators now that we should all go follow. Like, who's out there walking the walk and talking the talk that you like to keep up with on LinkedIn?
Beck Holland.
Beck Holland. Is that BECK?
BECC.
BECC. Last name HOL. 1 L or 2?
2 L's.
2 L's.
Can I put it in the comments? I don't know. For some reason, I can't add in the comments, so I can put it in private.
So BECCHOLLAND. Beck Holland. If anyone is on LinkedIn, if you could tag Beck, he is the Guru of the Week. Could you tell us why you chose Beck?
She's brave to talk about topics that sellers don't want to talk about, and she goes deep into the buyer journey to be able to create the kind of experiences that both buyers and sellers can collaborate instead of being at odds with one another. And the reason why she came into my mind when you mentioned Guru is because she had the brevity to move to Paris and take on a completely different country and language and everything to thrive in her business. That was impressive to watch.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, I can't wait to go follow her after the show. Thank you so much for that. And so that's it. That's a wrap. So we've gotten through our 5 topics, intermission, guru of the week, prizes. The only thing left is the after party. And I know it's late, Alina, but we would love it if you could join. We understand if you can't, no pressure. I'm going to put the Google Hangout link right here. And actually, let me just copy this into the comments. And I'll also put it in the private chat just in case you want to poke in for a minute. And so here it is in the comments. And here it is in the private chat. But this is just a Google Hangout. We cut it off after an hour. And we just spend time with the guests. I don't know if there will be many tonight. I know we were pretty niche on our topics tonight.
Not many women at 9 p.m. drinking whiskey and pregnant.
Yeah, maybe not. But I guarantee you, though, that, on podcasts, at least, where people are searching, when you're in, I'll make sure that we have some good detailed SEO content on that. So when they're in sales and marketing, executives, and who are pregnant, that they'll find this podcast, and hopefully we can uplift them and help them change the narrative. But yeah, thank you for everybody who stuck around. Would love to hang out with you in the Google Hangout. But it was really great to meet you, Alina. Thank you for coming on Whiskey Wednesday.
Thank you, Jess. It was lovely to spend an evening with you.
All right. Well, take care. And everybody, we will see you next week.